So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, Emmelie.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So we'd like to hear a little bit more about you and about your experiences and motivations behind learning languages, and also whether learning those languages has opened up career opportunities for you that perhaps wouldn't have been available otherwise.
Yes, definitely.
So firstly, you grew up between Denmark and Sweden. Do you speak both Swedish and Danish?
Yeah, I do.
And when did you start to learn English?
I think it was third or fourth grade, so I've probably been like 10 years old, because we started a bit late in school in Denmark, like we're 6 years old compared to the UK when you're 4, I think.
And how did you find the experience of learning English when you first started?
I thought it was really fun, because I've always loved languages and obviously music and art classes, and compared to mathematics and science, which is not my strongest side. And on my dad's side, we have British family actually, and on my mother's side, we have American family too. So I've been speaking a bit of English when I was younger, so it wasn't like completely new.
Your time on the Eurovision Song Contest saw you competing with people from all over the world. Can you tell us a little bit about that opportunity and how that came about?
I moved to Copenhagen when I was 18 to study singing technique at a place called Complete Vocal Institute. And after I finished that, I didn't know what to do. You know, I wanted to do music, but I didn't know how to take, that step further. And then I met a publisher who later became my manager, and he said, I have this amazing song for you, and we listened to it and recorded it. And then I got into the competition, won the Danish Grand Prix, Melodi Grand Prix as we call it, and then entered the Eurovision and won the whole thing. And it was a bit crazy because I was like a baby back then. I was like 19, 20, just like in between. So it was like very overwhelming. And and it was actually funny because I won in Sweden, which is like my second home country, just on the other side of the bridge from Copenhagen. So it's really nice.
And how have languages helped in your career?
I mean, a lot, because I mainly write in English. I've been writing a bit in Danish too, but it's actually more difficult because we don't have as many words as English to describe, emotions. We don't have that many words, and it's actually more difficult to make it sound good in Danish because it's a bit of a funny language, to be honest. I think it's not like Dutch or German, but it's a bit like down here in the throat, kind of. I don't want to say this about my own language, but I think it's a bit ugly compared to Swedish actually, which is beautiful. It's like more up here on the tongue, kind of, and it has some, I think, similarities to even like French words. So I think singing in Swedish is actually easier than Danish. So yeah, it's been a big help.
So how do you go about deciding which language you're going to write in, whether it's going to be English or Swedish or Danish?
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly always English. That's what I've been doing so far. I mean, I think it could be fun to do something in Danish and Swedish, release something. But for now, it's been English, which is, I won't say it's unusual, but in Denmark we have more a tradition of focusing on the Danish market. And I mean, a couple of years ago we had Lucas Graham and Mø, but it's like our first success abroad since Aqua in the 90s, if you remember, like Barbie Girl, compared to Sweden, which they have like a tradition of looking outside of their borders and do a lot of music in English, because Denmark is a small country. We're only like 5 or 6 million people.
So you mentioned earlier that Danish has got fewer words to describe emotions. So do you think there's a notable difference when someone writes a song in their first language to their second language?
Yeah, I think it's, as I said, easier in some ways to write in my own language, because I can really express what I feel and what I want to say. And even though I've been speaking English for many years, there might be a lot of words that I don't know, especially British. It's like you have a lot more words than Americans, I think, compared to. So that's why I sometimes rely on British or American writers to make sure that I didn't say something silly.
And has there ever been a point where you found it really challenging to express yourself or to write certain lyrics or parts of a song?
Yeah, I mean, many times, and I might not be like the fastest like write. You know, sometimes it just happens and you write a song in like 20 minutes, but I definitely think melodies are easier than lyrics. They just pop up in your head, and then the difficult part is actually, you know, writing the right lyrics, and you don't want it to be like too cliche, and so I can spend like many days, weeks actually on lyrics to finish them.
Are there any particular challenges that you found outside of songwriting from being multilingual?
I don't know, maybe when I was younger, when I started at school, when I was 6, you know, there was some words, because my dad was Swedish, and there were some Swedish words that I said or would write like in a Swedish way instead of a Danish way, and so I got it maybe mixed up a little bit, but I think it's normal.
Do you think learning languages is important?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could speak even more languages. So I've always wanted to learn either French, because I think it's really beautiful, or Italian. I actually signed up for it at school once, but there were too few. Everyone picked French and Spanish. And yeah, I think it's really beautiful languages to sing in, like Italian, like opera, or so I wish I could speak that maybe someday.
And what advice would you give to somebody who is looking at learning a new language?
If you can just like speak it as much as possible, and even you know, of course I sing in English all the time, but it's not the same as speaking it, because I think that's what you learn like last, you know, to have a conversation. I mean, for example, German, even Dutch, I think I can read and understand almost everything, but I can't speak it, like, you know, what do you call it? The grammar is always difficult. So to actually have a conversation is always the most difficult part. So, you know, just speak it as much as possible if you have the chance.
So that's all for the questions. Thank you ever so much for taking the time to speak to us today. It's been great having you.
Of course, thank you.